All right, everyone. Hopefully this session was helpful for you, understanding things like how functions are used within CSS. Um, function, as I've been using CSS for like, I don't know, more than 15 years at this point. And I've seen the language, I've seen CSS become more and more like a programming language, and functions are part of that, where it's like you can have like two numbers being added to each other. Or like choosing between two values. That's kind of what the min function and the max function do. So you're kind of seeing this kind of integration of kind of computer science concepts, programming concepts into CSS, which is something that's kind of newer. CSS variables is definitely something that's very popular now. If you were to look at like almost any website, you would notice that they are at least using some CSS variables to define their major colors and values and things like that. So like, I don't know. Let's go to Amazon. And I bet you if I look at this, I'm going to find some CSS variables. Bibbidi bobbidi boom. There you go. See all these? These are all CSS variables. CSS variables. You know what I mean? CSS variables. They have a lot. You know, some with horrible, I don't even know why they have this weird naming convention, but they do. I don't know. Let's go to Apple. There you go. Once again, don't ask me why they have such weird naming conventions here. These seem really random, but anyway, maybe they had like a coding program. It may have been AI for all I know. I don't know, but it doesn't matter who created them, whether it was a human or AI. The point is, these are all CSS variables that the developer could use, in their project. So it's like, actually, I technically am in Google right now, but if I were to click on, say here, there's all of these, like various. So anyway, it's something, if you plan to do more with web development, you definitely should at least get a decent understanding of CSS variables because you're going to run into them a lot. At least right now. This could all change in 5 years. But at the moment, if you're trying to like look at someone else's existing code, I almost guarantee you if it's professionally done, there will be some CSS variables being used. All right, with that in mind, it being November 18th, I'm giving you guys a lab to work on. Lab's called Yoga Website, and essentially it uses both, or it's practice of both CSS functions and CSS variables. Okay. So it's kind of your standard follow along type Mr. Hurwitz lab. So it's not due this Friday, it's not due next Friday, because next Friday is Thanksgiving. We do not meet next week. I'm not going to be releasing any new modules next week because of Thanksgiving. But it will be due the Friday that you return, which is the 4th. Okay. Reminder of other things due when you return from Thanksgiving. You guys are working on you guys are working on your final assignment. You guys turned in your wireframes before they're actually sorry, your wireframes are due this Friday. Um, I feel at this point I've talked about wireframes enough. Hopefully you don't need me to explain yet again the point of a wireframe. But the point of the wireframe is to do basic layout. In this case, the layout is not multiple pages, but the same page, but at different sizes, right? So we've gone over this before, but it's like, what does the website look like on desktop that's wider? What does it look like on a medium size like tablet type situation? What does it look at a smartphone, with a much skinnier layout? Okay. Once again, for these wireframes, keep them simple. You really shouldn't be using color. We're trying to make it as simple and as elegant, but not overly complicated. I know that's like a lot to throw in there, but that's kind of the idea that we're looking for. That's kind of like, okay, this is what it looks like here. This is what it looks like here. This is what it looks like here. Okay. You can use any program you want to use. You want to use Photoshop, Illustrator, Figma. Figma is very popular for prototyping like this really quickly. Photo P, insert name of other program. That's perfectly fine with me. It's your call. But this is due on Friday. When you guys return, your style tile and your mock-up are due. So this is due in about 2 weeks and a half. Remember that a style tile is a sort of the visual traits of a product. They're kind of separated from the layout. So rather than worrying about like how many columns there are, or how tall or wide something is. You're really just kind of focusing on visual elements like colors or gradients or backgrounds, textures, things like that. What does large blocks of text look like? Maybe what does a hyperlink look like in your website, regardless of what page it's on? Because you could have one page in your website, you can have 100 pages, you can have 1,000 pages. If you have a hyperlink, what does it look like in general? If you have a button, what does the button look like? How big is it? Things like that. That's really kind of the purpose of the style tile. To kind of give a general visual idea that's kind of separated from the product, but is still incorporating like the colors and the general vibe that you're going for. So like these are some examples of like colors, fonts being used, general imagery, adjectives to describe what you're trying to do, does that make sense? And then finally, you're going to have a mock-up. The mock-up is literally just this is what the final product is going to look like, but there's no actual coding in it. A lot of times in real life, the mock-up is one of the most important documents because that's the one that the client or your manager or the stakeholder is going to look at and kind of approve or not approve. Or realistically, what's going to happen is they're going to look at it and they're going to want to make some changes, and put their own spin on it so they can feel like they're part of it. So you might have to go back and make some edits or something like that. Um, but anyway, that's the mock-up can be done in any program. You want to do it in Photoshop, Illustrator, Figma, it's your call, whatever you'd like to do for that. Okay. So both the the style tile and the mock-up are due the Friday that we return. So there's no class next week. I don't teach anything. There's no, anything like that. So, enjoy your week off, be with friends and family and that kind of stuff. And then we come back, last couple weeks are going to be hitting the ground running. I'm not going to lie to you. But so if you have time, I'd start getting this stuff done before the break, if you can. Oops. Also, reminder that you have the responsive website. Oops, no, that's the project, but the how to make a responsive music page lab. This is due not the Monday we return, but the following Monday, which is the 7th. The point of this lab is to basically, give you guys practice for the final project where you make a page from scratch responsive. And that's really what you're doing for the final project, right? So, all right. So if you have any questions, or if you're seeing this before 9 a.m., hey, great, we can talk to me, or you'll be hearing a lot of this stuff again. If you have questions about anything that we're talking about, feel free to email me at davidhurwich@sfsu.edu. And you can also come to my office hours on Friday. All right.